Well, good morning everyone, good afternoon and good evening. Thank you so much for dropping by and joining me for an exciting new session of 3D Shenanigans. Everyone's in the house. This is really nice to see such a wonderful turnout. It's Alto, Biscuits, Zero Calvin, Mr. Brian, wonderful to see you, Mr. Jeremy, Mr. Chris, Mr. Nick, and so many other people. See you, Pan, for example. Welcome to the channel. And anyone else who's out there watching, I'm sorry I've forgotten you. I'm sure you're welcome all the same. I have a super exciting announcement that is that's just exciting to me, which is that yesterday a new graphics card arrived. Whoa, this is kind of cool. This is also kind of not so cool because I've been meaning to replace one of my 2080 cards with 3060 or with another 2080 that is slimmer in build. And this is in preparation for a new computer that I'm building. But sadly, this one, even though I've done all the research, this one is slightly thicker than the one that I needed, which is a bit of a shame. So the backstory here is that I have a new computer. I have a new computer that will take 3 graphics cards next to one another. It's a Z840 workstation by HP. It's a great computer. And the design interior is a bit different to the one that I have currently, which is a Z800, which is an older model, and it is designed so that I can run 2 of these slightly wider graphics cards exactly next to one another to fill out the case. And it works great space-wise, but on the new case they've put 3 PCIe slots in 1 slot increments in the case. So that means if I were to put my 2 existing cards into the new computer, they don't fit. They're basically too wide. They're not blower editions. They're the ones on the side. I might as well actually show you before we get started, because it's one of those things. It's exciting to see and know about this. And so I had thought, well, in order to at least utilize one of my other graphics cards, I could find a slimmer new graphics card and then put that next to one of the 2080s that I currently have, but it's not working. It's one of those things. So here it is. This is it. It's a 1 fan edition. Cost me $700. It's worth about 300, but that's the chip shortage that we're living in right now. And here is the issue. This here is the back plate. These are the exact 2 PCIe slots, and this is that overhang. And I tell you what, I've researched this, and all the pictures I've seen of this card didn't have this. So bizarrely, the one that arrived in my house, that has that. And it's made that way because this whole cooling unit kind of hangs over. So that means that a second graphics card isn't going to fit in here flush, because inside the case it'll just take up a little bit more room. It's one of those things. I'm sure I'll make good use of it. I'm sure I'll find something to do with it. I'm thinking of replacing one of my existing graphics cards anyway in my existing case until I find a replacement for this. But, you know, it's one of those things. Anyway, I thought I'd tell you because it arrived yesterday. I was very excited about this. So there we go. What are the plans for today? I'm going to talk briefly. In the last stream, we talked about how to bring morphs for figures as well as clothing into Blender, make a change and bring it back into DAZ Studio. But it's a cumbersome process, and in that video I mentioned that I'm going to show you 2 alternatives in which you have less clicks and an easier workflow, and that is with ZBrush and with Hexagon. So ZBrush is expensive and takes a lot of getting used to, but Hexagon is completely free, also takes a bit of getting used to, but it's something that will make your just quick fix life a lot easier. So I thought I'm going to show you that. So that's on the menu. Then there's also a question in regards to ZBrush by Judith, how to create a ZBrush morph from a base figure, and it's just a matter of loading the right figure, so I'll show you that. Then there is the interesting topic of animating lights inside DAZ Studio, so we'll talk about that. And we're also gonna, if the time permits, and you know, I'm thinking of making a thumbnail for this program, because the current one is a bit generic and it's not exactly, you know, it's not great. I mean, it works. It says 3D Shenanigans on there, but I have a couple of ideas that we should explore maybe together. A bit of music before we get started. I hope it's not going to be too loud. Let's see about this. Excellent. And of course, don't forget, if you have any questions, then drop them in the chat and I will see if I can answer them. There we go. They are so expensive, Biscuits, but the good thing about such graphics cards right now is that they are becoming available again. So that's something that I was worried about, that we're going to have this chip shortage until, you know, 2023 or something. So I thought I'd snap one up regardless of, you know, they're not as cheap as they could be right now, but they're available again. So I think I looked at about a couple of months ago or so, and I didn't find any, which is, you know, super tragic. Biscuits, speaking of biscuits, I'm using Biscuit's hair in this demo scene here. This is for a thumbnail I've made about turntable animations. So this is a scene I've built in preparation for that, and I'm using Biscuit's hair. This is just a filament preview here. This is Biscuit's Aggie hair that has tons and tons of options. We can go through that in a moment. So Biscuit's Aggie hair with the Blue Cinders Rycroft outfit that came with the Jacqueline 8.1 bundle. And one of the things that I didn't like about the way this fits is the length of the arms. So what happened there, if I go and select it, the dress, in fact, here it is, I've made myself a little morph. It's just in this morphs folder here, and it is called cuffs length, and that's something I've made. It's just in a morphs folder, so you can put that anywhere you like, but this is a fix I did in Hexagon, so I'll show you how to do that. So this is the original fit, and I thought it was just a bit too long. I like the idea. I wanted to show the figure from all angles on this thumbnail, and I thought they're just a bit too long. So with Blender you can do it, but you have to export the file, you have to make sure the settings are correct and all kinds of things. And I thought I'll show you how to do this in Hexagon, because that's just so much easier. All you need to have is Hexagon installed. It's available free from DAZ Studio, so it's from the DAZ side, and it has a bridge installed automatically that will start it just by default. Thank you, Brian. That is it. That's Aggie hair. I'll go and pin that, because that's wonderful hair. We'll go through these options in a moment, because this is not what the hair looks like in the promo. Quite the opposite. It looks very different. But there's so many styling morphs in there. I've only had a chance to play with it yesterday. So let me create a similar morph to this. I'll show you how I've made that, and also maybe apply something like that to the dress. So if I wanted to make the dress slightly longer or shorter, this is something you can do with Hexagon really easily. And also if you have a jacket that needs to open a little bit wider, if you need to lift up a shirt a little bit more, if you make pants a little bit more expanded and you don't want to rely on the smoothing modifiers, very easy to do. So the Hexagon works in that all items from your scene or from the selected object are being sent over. So if I select Jacqueline now, or my gray figure, all these items will appear in Hexagon. It's as easy as heading over to File, Send to, and I've got a few options here, ZBrush or Hexagon. So let's do Hexagon first, and then we'll do ZBrush, because it works just the same. So you just click that, and that will launch Hexagon and make a new scene and bring over all items into Hexagon. I don't know why this news window always pops up. It's one of those things. I keep clicking this and then I keep saying okay, but it just keeps coming up and it's just fine. So the beauty of this workflow is that you don't have to worry about settings. So it will bring over the low resolution figure into Hexagon, and it will imply a smoothing modifier if you wish. So you can see that the figure is a little bit chunky, but you can watch this smooth if you like by clicking this. So I don't mind. I like it a bit chunky, because that means I can see the geometry a bit better. But you don't have to worry about settings. I guess that's my point. So you can go and you can play around with the shading options at the bottom here. You don't have to do it, but you know, there's certain matte caps that you can apply, and I hope you can see this. This is just fine. On the right hand side here by default, you have not only the figure but also every single item in your scene. So a bit like what it was in DAZ Studio, and you can just go and select whatever you need. The framework this is based on is a little bit, you know, outdated. So sometimes when you change the size of the screen, it's all a little bit slow and clunky, but it's for quick fixes. It's just fine. So it kind of combines object mode and edit mode into one interface, if you will. You can select an object, like in this case my dress here, so Rycroft dress, select that, and now I'm essentially in kind of an object selection mode. That's this little block up here. This is face selection mode, this is edge selection mode, this is vertex selection mode, and this is a combination of it. I need the edge selection mode, so I'll select that, and my interface changes a little bit. So, you know, whatever is selected is currently turning a little bit transparent there. So if I wanted to select the sleeves, zoom in with the mouse button, middle mouse button, click it, and then you can move the pan basically side to side. These are the things I want to select, so I just need to select one. This is an edge of the sleeve. If I wanted to make the sleeve a little bit shorter, I select the sleeve, or like one face, and select loop, and that'll create this loop selection here. And that's already pretty much the magic to it. Alt left click will make you pan around the figure or the selection currently. And the cool thing is that it has something along the lines of what does Blender call this again? Proportional editing. In Hexagon it's called soft selection. You select that with F, and that gives you all these little red dots here. You can also go into the right here, select soft selection, that does the same thing, and you see the area of influence. We have a radius and a softness, and in my case I can go and increase or decrease the radius and increase or decrease the softness. So see what happens to the red dots as I increase and decrease the radius. That's the zone of influence. So maybe we don't want quite that much, we just want this area here, the whole sleeve area. And then there's also the softness itself, like how harsh I want this to be from where I'm selecting this. So larger radius and softness will give you less or more red dots. So we'll try something like this. And just like we've known the manipulator from DAZ Studio, I'm going to left click and drag the blue thing up, and that'll shift the whole sleeve up now. And that'll basically create the fit I'm looking for. And that's kind of nice. And you can play around with it. We can this little yellow thing in the middle will go and increase and decrease the size of my selected area. And if you don't want the selection to go up all to the whole sleeve there, you can just go and decrease your radius a bit, and just make the cuffs a bit shorter if you wanted to do that. Whoops. And that's really all you do. And so if it's a quick fix like that, it's perfect to do it, because now that we've made our change, all we need to do is head over back to File in Hexagon and say File, Send to DAZ Studio. And that will now not really do anything. Kind of Hexagon just lurks around in the background, so you have to manually switch back to DAZ Studio, where we get an exciting little dialog box. So you need to know about these options before this makes sense, but if you're already familiar with creating morphs in Blender, this will make a lot of sense to you. So this first option is here: do you want to create a morph, or do you want to create a prop, in which case everything that's in the Hexagon scene will just be sent over straight as geometry and will appear in your scene. So we don't want to do that. Create a morph and copy materials, or copy materials, we're not interested in that. We just want to create a morph. And then in here, if you open this Hexagon morph, it will have that familiar reverse deformations dialog. So this is exactly what Morph Loader would give you. And in this case, I do have a custom character, and I also have the character in a pose. If you see that here, there is a small pose applied to it. So I need reverse deformations on. So I need to go and right click and select yes. Just in case you're not familiar with that, if you have a basic Genesis figure in the A pose and you would send that over, make a change and bring it back either to the base figure or to an item of clothing, then you don't have any deformations. But if you use a custom character morph, or you use a pose of the character, you need to enable reverse deformation, so that DAZ Studio, or rather Morph Loader, can understand, hey, you have the Genesis base figure and you've derived something from it. So I just need to reverse calculate whatever you've already dialed in before you've sent it over to your editing software. This is often, if you don't use that and bring the morph in, then you have screwy fits, and the moment you dial up the morph and the clothing doesn't fit and it all looks horrible. And so if you change this to reverse deformations the moment you have anything like a pose or a custom character on it, you're gonna be fine. So let's hit accept. And that is it. Morph created successfully, because Hexagon and DAZ Studio have already negotiated the correct resolution and all that, and we see essentially nothing just yet. We just have one thing that's called Hexagon Morph, and if I dial that up, that is exactly the change I've made in Hexagon. And that's just really, really easy. If you go, I'll show you this again in a moment, because it's just very quick to make fixes like that. You probably don't want this to be called Hexagon Morph, so you can go and click that little gear icon, head over to parameter settings and call it something else. So like, you know, cuffs 2, I'll call it, just because, you know, I already have my cuffs length thing. And you can also change the path here if you want. You can also use limits. I just probably don't want this to go into the negative, so you set this to 0 and then click OK. Now it's called cuffs. You can call it right cuff, I suppose. We could call it right cuff. Cuff R and cuff L. Why don't we do that? Let's do that. So cuffs right, I'll call it. Cuffs right. Perfect. Let me go and do this again a little bit quicker. So I find this a really nice method to make quick fixes, like including the skirt. And let's go do this other cuff. And once again, you can go and hit File, Send to Hexagon. And then something should happen along those lines. There we go. We have it. Select the dress. Oh, you know, now we have both items in the scene. I think if the whole item was already in the scene, you don't need it again. So it doesn't always work all that well. If you send new items over, just make sure you close Hexagon down. Just creates a new. There was a time in which there was a new instance of Hexagon open, so that you had multiple instances, one per send over. So I guess, you know, that got changed. So once again, select the dress, then go and select your whatever selection you need, faces, edges. In my case, I need edges. Select one of those. Select loop. There's also shortcuts for this. And make sure you enable that soft selection here, because that's just, I find that really magic. And I found it easier to understand than, I suppose because it has less options, than the proportional editing in Blender. Do that, make it slightly smaller. And that's already all there's to it. And now that we're happy with the fit, or with any other fit that you like, File, Send to DAZ Studio. In this dialog, I can just go and name my morph as I want. So I'm gonna have this just morph, I suppose name. I don't need this to be Hexagon Morph. I want this to be cuffs left. And once again, I need reverse deformations for my character here. And I suppose that's all I need. Boom, morph created successfully. And now I have one for the left-hand side. And this poking here, that's just something that the smoothing modifier will iterate away. That didn't come over from Hexagon. That's just there. Cuffs left, cuff right. So it's quite nice. So when you have that, and now you think, hey, maybe I need to adjust the length of the skirt. I think all we need to do really is head over. Set these back to 0. Head over back into Hexagon. I think. Don't quote me on this. I'm figuring this out as I go along. Let's see if we can go and pick the... Can we deselect something? Dude, seriously. It hasn't seen an update for a while. Can we not select the bottom of the skirt? No, we can't. Why not? Does the skirt have a rim? No, we can't select anything anymore. So I suppose that's a little bug. So I suppose in order for that to work, really, we have to just close Hexagon down. Once you've made a morph, I think that's probably the safest option. Close Hexagon down and just go and send the whole thing over again. It doesn't, whoops, wrong option there. It doesn't take all that long. So send to Hexagon. I like that literally everything comes across so that you get a perfect representation of your character. So rather than having to work on one thing in isolation, I kind of like the idea that we have literally everything. And if you do prefer the smooth look, then you can have Hexagon imply the polygons if you like so. I tend to disable that, but you know, it's, let me see if I can show you some other options here. There's other lighting models that you can apply. It's not great, but you know, it does work. So it's one of those things. Pick one that you like. These are basically matte caps essentially. And then there's also a version with shadows, but I don't find that very helpful with modeling. It's just if you want a tad more realism, you can do that. I usually tend to switch the shadows off, and I tend to be in something very, yeah, that'll work as well. It's a bit of cartoon shading applied. I tend to be in this non-smoothed version. So select the dress first. Select loop. Select the total bottom of my skirt there. Soft selection. Make the skirt longer or shorter. So maybe make it longer. Go over, put it over the knees, and then go and make it slightly wider on the bottom. Very nice for quick fixes. So maybe move it back a bit, something like that. That's our morph. Good stuff. And it's just so easy to do. And then you just go send it over. Sent back to DAZ Studio. Morph gets created, no resolution issues. And let's call it skirt length. Reverse deformations, yes. And hit accept. And we have skirt length. Adjustable. Kind of nice. Sometimes works in reverse, but you know, obviously you'd have to make another morph for that, because it just, reverse calculations usually don't work well, like minus calculations. So I recommend you set this always to 0 and just let the morph be between the original and whatever change you've made. And if you wanted a skirt shorter morph, you'd have to make another one just to make the fit proper. Also, for a skirt like that, if you didn't want to lengthen the trim, but the upper part instead, can you grab the loop above the trim? Yes, you can do that too. I think I'm gonna have to go and close Hexagon again. It's a bit, you know, it takes a little bit of getting used to. And much like with DAZ Studio, there's not that much documentation around it. There are some tutorials on YouTube, I think by the user used to be called EZ Hexagon. He made a great series about this. There's also Vladimir Chopin. He also has a great series, like really old series on Hexagon. But the thing is, Hexagon itself hasn't actually changed, so that's kind of nice. So if you're thinking like this part of the skirt, for example, let me see, dress. So you can either use the edges that I selected, so it kind of depends on the geometry, and then hit loop. Sometimes that doesn't quite work depending on the geometry, but you can also go and pick faces. So maybe face selection is easier, and sometimes loop works. Sometimes ring needs to be selected instead of loop. You can also select two things in between. So if you're familiar with these selection tools, like from here to there. I don't know if the geometry will allow it, but there's this between thing here. And sometimes if the geometry is connected, you can do it. Of course, now that I'm trying to show you this, it doesn't really work. Let's show from here to there. So with shift you can multi-select and then go between. Yeah, there we go. So it's just a matter of selecting the correct pieces and then, you know, making sure you select what you want changed. You can even, there's other pieces you can do it like polygon by polygon, but there's also here brush selections, I believe, like paint selection mode. That means you can paint something on. This is kind of the hardest bit in every 3D application, I find, like making correct selections to the area that you want to change. But if you're patient enough and if you learn the tools of how to select things, you can do it. And then soft selection is of course your friend. They'll be able to just make all kinds of, you know, bulges and influence areas so that it doesn't look as terrible as without soft selection, which would do this, which is terrible. So then, you know, the soft selection, you can make it smaller and just, you know, for little bulges or whatnot, for things that poke through. So this is also great for fixing poke through. Just select the area that you want to change. Make sure you have soft selection enabled. Just go. It's a bit like sculpting. So the bit of history about Hexagon, this went through several owners as well until DAZ bought it and just integrated it, and then made a few changes to it that made it integrate with DAZ Studio, but didn't do much else with it. The lead programmer, I believe, who worked on Hexagon used to be at ZBrush as a marketing manager. I thought that was quite cool. I forgot his name, but it's one of those things. Mr. L, Mr. Neville, very good to see you. Maternity dress, exactly, Alto. But yeah, so this is kind of how easy it is to create morphs, quick fit morphs with Hexagon and DAZ Studio. You don't have to worry about anything along the lines of resolution and whatnot. You just bring it in and you just save it with your scene, and all these things will be saved. So that's kind of nice. Good for fixing poke through. Good for making fit morphs. Durrell, how are you today? Have you seen Biscuit's new hair? This is Biscuit's new hair called Aggie Hair, available from DAZ Studio. I've just pinned it. Yes, do that, because I had completely forgotten about Hexagon. I thought, man, this is really not suitable as a modeling tool, and totally correct unless you have a ton of patience. But what's really cool is this quick integration with DAZ Studio, that you just go make a quick fix to it and not worry too much about Hexagon's features. You don't have to worry about materials and resolutions, and you just click, fix, boom, fixed, can get on with my scene. So I really enjoy that. And the learning curve is slim on Hexagon, as opposed to ZBrush, which is terrible. I know very little about ZBrush, but I will show you stuff anyway. Look, so what I wanted to show you about this hair is that if I select it and head over to actor, and there's both moves and style. So I'm using the iron style, but this is not what the hair used to look like. So this is kind of the default shape here in filament, so it'll look nicer in iRay, of course, but just to show you what the amount of morphs that are in this dress is very, very nice. So style cabaret, very cool. You can mix and match them. Style chic. So this is just like Biscuits does. You buy one hair, but really you get like 12 different variations. So this, other vendors would sell this as a different product. So Biscuits kind of gives you this as, you know, hey, this is an option if you want to have that as a kind of a bun thing. That's also, so very different hairstyles, and you can go as much or as little as you want. So I really like that. So there's this glam. There's one that was Hive. I think that was it. That was like a really large bun thing that you had in the retro area. So very nice. There's tons of morphs, and these are just the style. So these are not the adjustment morphs. Iron, I like iron, so that makes it straight. And again, a totally different hair prop. And you can mix and match them. So if you like the jazz style and the iron style. You can make it a bit jazzy and iron it out a little bit. So, you know, you can just endless possibilities in what type of hair you want to create. That's very, very cool. It comes with a variety of... Oh, very nice. Biscuits has a video on her channel, actually. Biscuits, if you want to drop that into the channel, just let people know about it. You're explaining that very well, all the bits and pieces that you can do with it. Shorter style, you can just, there's so much here. And these are just the styles of movement. This is not a D-Force hair, by the way. This is a hair prop. I don't think it has D-Force. Does it? I don't know. Exactly, Biscuits video. Aggie is on your wish list. That's cool. I love it. So there's movement morphs here as well. Waft from either side. Move the whole thing to the left and the right, or the front and the back. So I'm going to use that in my thumbnail for this program. I'm thinking, see if we can come up with something exciting. So yes, Biscuits Aggie hair. There's I think, let me show you the materials that come with it. It comes with 2 portions. So the base product already comes with transparency options as well. Just checking the hair colors here. These are the colors that you get with the base product, so they're already a ton of variety here. Just double click to apply that. But then there's also an expansion pack available with another, how many is it? Like 100 different hair colors. And they're literally all kinds of exciting color combinations. That's how I matched the outfit in my thumbnail. So very nice. Loving that. So Biscuits Aggie hair. Very cool. I just thought I'd mention it because, you know, exciting products deserve exposure. So there we go. While we're talking about morphs, let me show you how the ZBrush integration works. And now that we have no hexagon open anymore. Indeed, yes. Brian was faster. Brian is the fastest, the fastest when it comes to links. Yeah, so if we wanted to change something about the dress in ZBrush, we can also do that. Let's see if I go back to my dress here, and I'll zero out all the morphs that we've made so far under morph, so that I can basically have a go at this in ZBrush. So this is the original with the slightly longer sleeves and the slightly shorter skirt. So ZBrush integration, and Chris, if you have it installed, great. Make sure you also install the GoZ plugin that comes from DAZ for free. So if you install that and you have ZBrush installed, it also auto launches. So with the whole figure selected, file send to ZBrush. And it'll come up with this option here first. There's actually a setting that I can show you that might be helpful. Export at current resolution, you can say yes or no. If you disable that, it'll send it over in base resolution. That's kind of the recommended way of doing things. But if you ever wanted to make a change to the HD geometry, you can select this, and then the subdivision surface modifier will be applied, and then it'll be sent over to ZBrush. I don't think it is able to send the change back unless you're PA. They have a special kind of tool that lets you bake HD morphs into the Genesis geometry. As mere mortals, we don't have that, so let's leave that on disabled. And export with deformations. This is another exciting option. So enable that to send over the morphs that you've dialed in on your figure. If you disable that, the figure will appear as the A pose in base resolution in ZBrush. So we probably don't want that if we wanted to create a fit morph. So those options are enabled by default, I believe. Export with deformations and disable export at current resolution to send it over at base res. Hit accept, and that of course will launch ZBrush for us. Well, let's just say Jay is a ZBrush owner. He's not necessarily a ZBrush operator. So yeah, that's one of those things. I have it, I've bought it many years ago, but I really don't know how to use it. Biscuits knows how to use ZBrush. So we can learn from Biscuits. This is a total, ZBrush says, yeah, there's a new version. I'll say I'm good with it. I might, I'm gonna not upgrade just yet. It works. I'm not gonna break anything. ZBrush takes a lot of time to get used to, so I know extremely little about it, literally nothing, so do forgive my non-existent modeling skills. But the first thing we need to do is select the item that has been sent over, which is in this case the Jacqueline figure, and then we can go and left click and drag her out. And there she is, even though we didn't see the dress in the preview. Here she is. Left click and drag, maybe hold shift down if you want, and then let go, and then do nothing else. You have to go into edit mode right away, because otherwise you paint copies of her on the canvas, which is, you know, slightly unintuitive. As soon as you're in edit mode, you can go and frame her up. And yes, then you're gonna have to relearn navigation as we once knew it. So there's no more left click and drag. There's now right click and drag. If you're not on the figure, that'll tumble around her. And the guys from Flip Normals explain this really, really well. There's a free video on their channel that explains basically getting started with ZBrush. I have to watch this video every time I'm away from ZBrush for longer than 6 months, because I just forget. So if you right click and drag off the figure, then you'll tumble around. You can also right click, tumble, and then hit shift, and that will snap her into place if you want to do that. You can also, you can't mouse scroll in and out. You have to go and you do all these things with the right click and the alt key. So right click and move, then hit alt, and then at some point, no, it's actually right click, then alt, and then, how does this work again? Or was it left click? I don't remember. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's it. So alt, left click, and then you pan, but then when you let go of alt, you kind of zoom in or something. I don't really, I've never really gone that comfortable with ZBrush, but once you manage to zoom into the item of clothing you wanna mess with, let's say the skirt here. So I really don't know anything about the brushing tools. It's just about the principle of doing the morphs back and forth. You can go and hit B, S, T, that'll pick a brush. So B will bring up the brush menu that you can pick anything from, and they all have little shortcuts. So ST is the standard brush, which may or may not work in our case. Before you can start noodling around on anything, so right now it'll make a morph on the figure. It won't do it on the clothing, so Control Z will disable that. All these items that are parented with the figure, they're subtools. So the main thing that you sent over, like the figure, is the main tool, and then there's appended subtools, which are additional parts of the geometry. That's how ZBrush does it. And for us to have a look what those are, in the palette on the right, there's the subtool menu, and when you open that, you get a list of items that are also on your figure. So the figure itself is this, but then this here, this is now a subtool. So the dress is a subtool, and then there's also the eyelashes, or the tear ducts, that's a subtool, and the eyelashes and so forth. So make sure you pick the correct item that you want to noodle with. So in our case it's the dress, so let's just select that, and you see that the dress changes color slightly. So our original figure is now kind of dark gray, and this means now if I try to sculpt on this, nothing happens. But if I now try and sculpt on the dress, I can see that, you know, things do happen. I really don't know anything about which brush to select, but if we were to make, you know, like maternity dress 2.0, or there's kind of an inflate brush, I think BIN, is it? That's the inflate brush that kind of inflates geometry here. Tons of options, of course, that you can make sure you change the area of influence and all that. That's just, you know, that's just ZBrush knowledge, which I don't have. But imagine this is now a morph. Without going too much into detail of ZBrush, this is now a morph. And if we wanted to bring this back over into DAZ Studio, it's a bit like the hexagon approach. It's one click. It's up here in the top right corner. Go Z. If ZBrush already knows about the programs that it can send things to, it will automatically just go back. So if I now click Go Z, it'll just go and knows, hey, this came from DAZ Studio, I'm going to send it back to DAZ Studio. And that's all I have to do. And then in DAZ Studio, it's come up with another funky dialog that lets me import this morph now. So morph name, ZBrush morph, I don't really mind. We can call it skirt test maybe. and it puts it into the group path, so you can change that to something that you like better. Override existing morph, that's kind of nice if you've made it try and it didn't quite work so well and you want to have another go, you can just go keep sending it, and then that morph will be updated. You don't end up with 20 morphs, each of which you don't want. It's only the last one that you want. It can just override that, which is kind of nice. UVs we're not worried about, and import as new or accept or advanced. You just hit accept and that'll create that morph now. And just as beautiful as it was in ZBrush, it does exactly that. It also goes into the negative, so that's just a matter of changing the parameter to 0. And yeah, so this is how the ZBrush workflow is, and this is quite nice to. If only I knew how to use ZBrush, this would be such an exciting way to bring morphs back and forth, but sadly I don't. Maybe one day I will. You can do it on anything. You can do it on the hair, you can do it on the actual figure, like the position of the pendant, for example. If you're in a pose and the pendant kind of digs into the body, it'll be really easy to just sculpt that out, and you don't have to export intermediate files and all that. In fact, let's see if we can do that. If we go back here, let's see if I can find the pendant. Is that not a subtool? Is that has that come with the figure? Is that possible? I don't actually know. I think there's also a way to select the actual geometry you want. Was it just with alt selecting? Yeah, there we go. So that's the pendant. Oh, there it is. I didn't see it as a subtool there. But if I go and sculpt that out, can I do that? Oh, I can. This is the inflate brush. Oh yeah, I see. Mega pendant. Right. Not what I wanted. BST maybe again. Can I do anything? Does anything happen? Oh yeah, there we go. Changes position. Hit go Z, and I think that's all I need to do. I'll just call it pendant move for now. Hit accept. And it's not here on the dress because I suppose I have to go and hit the actual item, which I don't actually know where it is. Where is it? Necklace, there we go. Nexus necklace now has pendant move. Haha, nice. So one of my plans is to learn ZBrush and make full use of this, because I have ZBrush. I've spent so much money for it years ago, and I haven't actually used it yet, but I'm thinking this is a great tool for scene building to just bring quick morphs in and out. I think this is going to be good. Yes, Chris, I totally agree. And I admire everyone who knows ZBrush and who can use it, but I think, like with many things, if you think about the Blender interface, be it intuitive or not, I think once you get used to it, it'll all just fade into the background and you'll naturally understand what you need to do. I know nothing about ZBrush right now, but one of my plans is to learn it and to make full use of it, at least for the quick fixes. And for those of us who don't know it, there's always Hexagon. So Hexagon, like I showed before, that's just another great option for quick fixes. And some options will be better in ZBrush, like the sculpting features. If you need to if you know how to sculpt things out, that'll be great in ZBrush. But other things like the length of the skirt or the length of the cuffs, that's going to be so much easier to just quickly do in Hexagon. And yeah, I thought I'd show you both options, and I hope this was helpful, at least to get you started. There's one other thing about the ZBrush integration that I wanted to show you. So in ZBrush itself, if you open this for the first time, this Go Z button here, if you click that, it will say, hey, I understand there may be other applications on your computer that you may want to map. So that'll come up and it'll ask you for applications that you might not even have. So there's Photoshop and I think Maya, and there's bridges to all kinds of things that are all made by the ZBrush guys or by Pixologic. And on first installation, you click this button, it'll come up with this dialog that'll ask you, where are these applications? And you have to tell it. You have to tell it where is DAZ Studio, where is Photoshop and all that. And then the process will be working automatically. I think there's also, can you control click, I believe? Control actually brings up a little help menu here. I didn't know that. Control click. No, that doesn't work. That's not what I meant. There's a way to manually force this, but I don't remember how it works. Is it Alt maybe? Nope. Alt is also not how it works. there is a way to manually remap these things. Was it right click? No. It's once again, it's ZBrush. I don't really know how to bring this up again, but I know it happens on first installation, and then on subsequent runs it'll just know where this thing has been sent from. I was in preferences. Let's have a look. Preferences, and then my god, who has that many preferences? This is terrible. Go Z at the bottom maybe. And here is, it's kind of running off on the oh, there we go. Left click on an empty portion of a menu to scroll it up and down. Duh. Let's try again. Thank you, Biscuits. I appreciate that. So here it is. Update all paths. That's the one. Path to Cinema 4D, path to DAZ Studio, and so forth. Even Marvelous Designer. I've tried ZBrush with Marvelous Designer. Didn't quite understand why it wanted to do that, but it's just, I don't really understand how ZBrush tweaks back and forth in or out of Marvelous Designer are useful. We didn't work that out. I tried this in a Twitch stream, but yeah, this is where you set the paths, and you can also say force reinstall. I think that is what brings it back to kind of initial configuration. So yeah, this is something to watch out for. If your path isn't set, then you can set it here. Browse, or you can say not installed. That's also an option. So the other menu that is interesting is inside DAZ Studio. Go cancel out of that. That is also under Preferences. That's under Edit, Preferences, Bridges. Here it is. So that's where options for both Hexagon and GoZ are hiding. So for Hexagon, you have Advanced or Basic. So if you let it show the advanced options, that's when you get this dialog that shows you, do you want to use reverse deformations, yes or no. If you set this to basic, I don't think that dialog comes up, and it will decide were there deformations or not. So, you know, in case you don't see this dialog, click it to advanced. Then also use the path to Hexagon here. So Hexagon, much like DAZ Studio, is available in a couple of versions. There's one that is that's the beta version that has some more features. There's a 64-bit version. I don't know if that's out of beta yet, but you can point it directly to whichever version of Hexagon you want to use in case you have multiple. And then you have the GoZ options. That means show options and update path. So update path was an important one. Sadly, I don't really recall why that was. There was, I've read it in the changelog. This was good to set it onto yes. I remember that. I think if you don't set it to yes, then ZBrush might not always understand where the object came from. I think that's the implication. I think. I don't exactly recall, but this was important. And then also show options. This is the same dialog that we had before. If you set this to no, then things will be kind of assumed and being automatically put into back into your object. But if you set it to yes, you have full control over naming the morph and also reverse deformations. There we go. That was all I have on Hexagon and ZBrush. I hope it was helpful. Now the next item on my list is to animate lights. That's a question I got in various shapes and forms in several iterations. Let me go and close ZBrush because we don't need it anymore. And Darrell, you were one who was asking that question, how to make a strobe light. Somebody else wanted to animate a torch inside a cave. So all these things are possible. And I thought I'm going to talk a little bit about it. So the thing about animating lights is that you can't animate all lights. You can animate some lights, but not all lights. Typically, anything that you've created with this menu here, create spotlight, point light, linear point light, distant light, those things, you can animate those, but you can't animate mesh lights. And that's because the light parameters on a mesh light are set on the Surfaces tab, and that is currently not recognized on the timeline in DAZ Studio. There used to be a script, I think it still is there, by Jacques M. Casual. He makes amazing scripts, and one of them was in fact that you can animate certain surface properties in the timeline. But the trouble is that it was written for 3D light, and of course in Iray we have different surface properties, and the emitter property was not something that he had coded, if I understand it correctly. So some surface properties can be animated with his plugin, but the emitter property is not one of them. So one of those things, keep that in mind. So if you have a mesh light, you may just have to create, and you want to animate that, you just have to create a light object, and then you can animate that. So let us create a little primitive first. Maybe a 1 meter plane will be good. That'll be our ground. 1, maybe 2 meters. It doesn't have to have division, so 1 is fine. And Y positive is good. This is our ground now. And I'll just use this as something that will bounce light off in a moment. So I'll call that ground. And then I'm going to create a point light. And we'll just use the default settings. Call it point light. We'll just call it light source. And it doesn't really matter in principle if you use a different type of light object. They just have different properties. I'll go and bring it up a little bit, and we can barely see it here, but that's just because the environment light is currently in filament, kind of drowning everything out. So let's go and remove that on render settings, environment. And let's turn that to 0. And now everything is black, including what appears to be our light source. So filament will translate this kind of properly-ish. In filament options, I've got a filament draw options node here, and the light scene scale, I'm going to set this to 2, maybe to 1, just so that we see the effect of the light here. Filament draw options node, I'm just using that because it's easier to preview this in real time for animations. The correct values you'll have to determine in Iray, of course, but it's one of those things that it's not fluid when you do preview. So if I now go and move my light source up and down, we should see that we see the influence of the light in real time. That's the reason why I'm doing it. So as I bring it closer to the ground, it'll be, smaller and more intense. If I bring it away, it kind of fades away here. So if I go and with my light source selected on the parameters tab on the lights tab here, I have various options, and there's 2 that you can and should animate. One is the intensity option here, and the other one is the luminous flux in lumen. And intensity is just a slider that goes from 0 to 200, and it allows you light intensity changes within reason, but you can't make bulk changes with it. So let's leave this on 100%. Just know that this parameter can be animated. Then at the bottom here, this is the more important one. This is the luminous flux in lumen. That's set to 1500, which is the default value is actually very low. So if you go and set this to something higher, then you can see that the light intensity changes. And that's also a parameter that you can animate. BizKids, thank you so much for the super chat donation. I appreciate it. Awesome. That's very kind of you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yes, if you do want to give via super chat, it's the little currency icon at the bottom of the chat. You can click that, and then you can drop off a one-off donation into the chat. And your support is greatly appreciated, of course. Not mandatory, but very, very greatly appreciated. So those are the 2 parameters that will change the light intensity. You can change more, so you can animate the color parameter and all that. But for now, let's go and set the luminous flux value to something like 10,000. Just so that we have some kind of light going here as a base value. And let's bring up our timeline and change this over time. So it works just like setting any other keyframe. The first keyframe is kind of set by DAZ Studio on the bottom left here. If I move this to somewhere else, Dorel, my goodness, thank you so much. That's really nice of you. Fantastic, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you. Super nice. Just like all the other keyframes, when you move your playhead to another position, like say frame 10, and you make a change on any parameter that you want to change, then that's the change that will be locked in. It kind of auto keyframes it. So watch this part of the timeline as I change my luminous flux to say 5000. As soon as I do that, this demonstration effect, I should see a triangle here, which I don't. What a shame. Oh, I know why that is. I know why that is. I've got to talk about it. If you ever want to set a keyframe manually, you can do this by clicking that little icon down here, create keys. If you do that, now I get this little triangle. So it's temperamental. Sometimes it works automatically, sometimes it doesn't. So it's one of those things. If I go and move my playhead back and forth, you can see that the value of that luminous flux is now interpolated between these two values, which is quite nice. So I'll go and set another one on frame 20 and maybe set this to 0 at that point. And once again, manual keyframe. Some parameters will lock in automatically, like positions and all that. Others will not. Don't ask me why. One of those things. And now we have this value interpolate over time. From here to there and from here to there. And then as the animation goes back around, it'll just go and start from the beginning, at which point it is set back to 10,000 and it just goes and animates up and down. That's essentially how you do it, and you can do it with many other parameters on the lights as well. The difficulty comes in when you say, hey, what if my second keyframe was a little bit too early or too late? How do I change that? How do I go to that exact keyframe and then find out what parameter was actually changed on the timeline? That's where it gets a little bit trickier, but I can help you with that. So as you expand the timeline for this and have a look at the bottom left, you see the object that's currently selected. So in our case, that's the light source. You can select it from the scene tab here, or you can select it directly in here in the timeline. So on light source, if you open that up, you see the properties tab, and currently I don't really see much. I see the general transforms translation and the general transforms rotation, and those are really the parameters that are set over on the general transforms tab under translation and rotation. Scale we don't see here, but that's probably because I filtered it out. So these are the values that we're currently seeing. What we're not seeing is the stuff that is under light and display here. And to bring that into the timeline's view, we need to go and have a look at this little menu here under types. It says TRA currently, so scale is disabled. This is whatever is enabled will be shown as values in the timeline here. Whatever is not ticked will not be shown. So if I enable S, I now see transform, rotation and scale. I didn't really do anything with those things. So for my light animation right now, I don't need to see these. So if you want to see less stuff in the timeline, you can just go and disable those things. And now we see nothing about our light source, which is, not good. But we also don't see clutter we may not want to see. So what we really need to enable is other here. So enable that, and that will now show us more triangles, namely on the bits and pieces that we've actually set keyframes on. That's kind of cool. So now we have properties, and if I open that, I can see display and light, much I can see up here, display and light. And under light, I can see photometrics, so it's exactly the same folder hierarchy that I saw up here, and in here I see luminous flux, which has changed on these keyframes. So this is now where I can go and move my values around, which is kind of nice. So if I wanted to see my light dim faster and maybe see it dim over the course of 5 frames, I could go and left click and drag my luminous flux keyframe. So left click it to make it yellow, and then you just left click and drag to put it somewhere else. So now over the course of 2 frames, it'll go and dim, or maybe I'll make it over the course of 5 frames. It'll dim down to 5000 already, and then it'll go and dim down much slower. This is how you can create something like flashlights. You can make them dim up or down. I'll show you another way of moving keyframes. There's big confusion about what's a keyframe and what isn't a keyframe. So these round things, they're actual keyframes, but the triangles are also kind of helpful because they show you where keyframes are Exactly, properties. That's exactly what you need to find. And so on figures, you sometimes don't see this either. If you animate figures and you don't have others selected, then you don't see things like the morph dial. So if you want to animate a figure changing body shape over time, that you may not know where that is. So it's other. There's also aliases and hidden. So some properties are hidden that are also animatable, but you by default you don't see them. So if you switch all these on other aliases and hidden, then you see all kinds of other things like shadow, for example. That was a hidden property because I guess we don't have it anymore. It's kind of a 3D light property. We don't really have a shadow option on the on Iray lights anymore, so I suppose they've hidden it that way. So if you don't want to see that because you're not using it, you disable hidden and then shadow will disappear. So play around with this menu and enable and disable the things that you don't want to see or the things that you do want to see. So aliases, looks like I don't think I have aliases right now. Aliases, just in case you're not familiar with that, those are things that give sliders a way to appear in two places at the same time. That's an alias. So imagine you had an expression in the head part of the figure, but you want to have that slider available in the root node of the figure as well as in the head. Then you create it on the head and then you set up an alias for that slider and put it somewhere else. There we go. That's what aliases are. You can copy and paste keyframes. Yes, you can do that as well. And that entails, let's go and try this. Say if we have this one here, you can go and right click and copy the selected keyframe from here. Then you park your playhead somewhere else. Let's say here. Let's just say here for argument's sake. And then you go and once again right click and say paste keys. And then the keyframe is pasted. So that's kind of useful. So now the value is dimmed and retained. Well, it isn't actually retained, but it'll just appear there again. I suppose the interpolation's a bit faster, so let's go and move this over here. See if it interpolates. It bizarrely does not interpolate when you copy it. I'm not sure why that is. So the keyframe itself is copied, but the interpolation doesn't work. Answers on a postcard as to why that is, because that it shouldn't go to black now, should it? It should interpolate from this value to that value. It clearly doesn't do that. I'm not entirely sure why, but that could well be. I see, this is a bug. I can see that as a bug. This is something we might want to bring to DAZ's attention. NaN in JavaScript means not a number, so I suppose it doesn't know this right now. It's trying to interpolate from here to there. It shouldn't really do that. It should really just stay on 5000 here. Instead, it says, hey, I'm trying to interpolate from here to here, and it appears that now you've pasted another keyframe into this. I don't really know what to do. It might help to save the scene and load it again. That is uncool. Let me go delete this keyframe, see if that comes back to life. Yeah, there we go. So under the hood, it's now still interpolating from here to there. Let me see what happens if I paste the keyframe here. Oh, Darrell, we found a bug. Paste the keyframe here. It works at the keyframe, and it also works when there was no interpolated value. So, interesting. I'll bring it to their attention. This is really helpful. This is probably a quick fix. It might also be fixable by just saving the scene and loading it in again. Maybe at that point the timeline has to recalculate the values. Interesting. You can copy and paste multiple by just group selecting them if you wanted to do that. Multiple and then go and copy keyframes. That is also possible. There's another way of moving things around. And in fact, let me go and put this back to where it came from. And this here, I'm going to go and delete. So imagine you don't open the whole source here. Imagine you don't open the whole properties. I think you can also go and left click this triangle and move all the properties that are here. I don't think you can you copy things? Yeah, you can also copy the whole group of keyframes. So anything that's underneath this triangle. When you go and left click and drag that over, you can also do that. Just be aware that this isn't one keyframe, this is a number of keyframes. This is all the keyframes that are hiding underneath this value. So if you have multiple things that you had animated, like the light intensity and the color, for example, this is a way to do it. You can just left click and drag this whole triangle. That'll also move that. Just know that's not just one keyframe, that's multiple keyframes. Just because I fear I may have screwed things up, I'll go and make myself a new light source, and I'll show you how to animate colors in lights as well. I'll use another point light. I'll call it, I'll just leave it point light, that's cool. I'll move that up. And I can see a little bit of illumination here already, but on the parameters tab under photometrics, I'm going to go and call it 5000. There. And I like the light intensity. Maybe at frame 15, I like it to be a little bit higher, maybe 10 times higher. That is very high. And then maybe on frame 30, I like it to be 5000 again. And that should now interpolate. Perfect. So it's almost like a pulsating flashlight that we're getting here. That's nice. So let me show you how to animate the color values. Same idea. It's just on the light property. Let's start with white, and then on frame 5, let's make it a different color. Let's make it, I don't know, something like red. Maybe like a darkish type red. That value is also animatable. So now we're going from, well, we should have set this as white. It didn't have that keyframe, so this is white. The second one is red. So maybe at frame 10, now it'll just naturally interpolate back to where it had the next keyframe, which is here. But maybe at frame 10, I'd like for this to have a color of blue. Kind of a dark blue is good. So now it goes and animates from white to red, from red to blue, which will be an intermediate of green, of course, and then it'll go back to white. So that's kind of nice as well. It's kind of a disco light effect that you can animate there. And if you make it nice and slow, then you can interpolate between colors. So that's kind of nice. So maybe your torch has a bit of a yellowish tint or something, or maybe you have a neon light, like a cyberpunk neon light that shines blue at your character because they're in some kind of neon district in Tokyo or whatever. So that's possible. And the value here, that's just one other thing I wanted to bring to your attention. The keyframe interpolation looks a little bit different here. So if I go into light and color, you see that these keyframes just look slightly different. They don't have the T anymore, they have this little C. And that's because the underlying value isn't a float anymore, so it doesn't interpolate from one value to another. It really interpolates between 3 or 4 values. This is RGB and luminance. That's why this looks a little bit different here. There we go. That's how you animate lights. So it's not actually that difficult if you know where to begin. And you know, I hope it's going to be, yeah, exactly, party, disco party. I hope it's going to make your scenes colorful and your animations even more colorful. Yeah, if you set shortish keyframes for a flashlight, that's the other thing I was going to explain. If you set things short, I'll make a new light for that. If you wanted to make a flashlight is a bit like in a reverse eye blink. It's off, then it goes on, and then it kind of dims down over 3 or 4 frames. But it kind of goes on immediately, and then it kind of dims out. That's how you emulate a flashlight. So if you had your fashion models walk up and down a runway, and they were to be photographed by people, you could turn this into an anti-block, and then just use a flashlight anti-block, and you know, have photographers flashing at the model. That's a nice little effect. So let's go and do that. I'll do a point light again, because that's just super easy. I'll call it flash light. You can use a spotlight as well. And just like before, I'll go and increase the light value. Actually, I don't increase the light value. Yeah, I will increase the light value to say 5000. So imagine that's now the camera flash. At frame 0, however, we want the intensity to be 0. We want the light to be off. Set a keyframe. And then say at frame 10, well, let's say at frame 5. At frame 5, we want it to be off still, so make that another keyframe. So that means between, hello? Hello? It doesn't want to set a keyframe. What a shame. Oh, wrong key, sorry, wrong button, press the wrong button. So for the first 5 frames, nothing happens. Then over the course of literally 1 frame, we set the intensity to 100%. So that's the flashlight at 100%. Set a manual keyframe, see if these things happen. Nothing, and boom. And then over the course of, I'd say maybe 2 frames, 3 frames, we can play with this. We're gonna go and turn the intensity off again. And that's our key, that's our flashlight. So it doesn't just go on and off, it goes on fast and then just dims out. And if you turn that into an Annie block, then you can just go and loop it and put it in any type, like as many times as you like. We can probably just go and copy these keyframes and put them elsewhere. Let's try that out. That's adventurous. And you can set it as many times as you like. Like if it's like a photographer with a really fast camera, you can just go whatever you like to do. So these are them. Technically speaking, it's just these. So Control and left click to copy them all. And I'll see if it works. Copy selected keys. And I'll just... In fact, yeah, I'll just copy them here. I'll just paste them here. Paste selected keys. Does it work? What does it look like? A flash, there we go. Multiple flashes. You could even, if you wanted to do that, not copy the whole bunch of keyframes. You can just copy the ones that have, like literally these ones here, from off to on to off again. So just copy these 3. And then paste them here, so that way the photographer takes multiple pictures. Paste those here. And then it just goes, you know, like one of those guys who takes crazy amount of pictures in a short amount of time. That's, you know, and if you offset them so that they're not coming in quite so predictably, you can just go and move them around a bit. So like, you know, move that here, move these 3 over to here. We have slightly less repetition in the way these flashes appear. Paparazzi, that's exactly right. And then you know the drill. Turn it into an Annie block and shift it around. I'd probably go and turn 1 flash into an Annie block and then just duplicate the Annie block and move that around on the timeline. All the SOS lights, exactly. Help me, I need to get out of here. So there we go, that's how we can animate lights. I hope that's helpful in your journeys of making the paparazzi effect in your animations. I'm looking forward to that, Darrell. And anyone else who needs to animate torches and everything. So it's you know, hopefully that'll get you on the right track. Do you know, yes, Neville, good idea. Play with colors as well. That's a good idea. That'll be SOS. That'll certainly be SOS. What else do we have on the list? Thank you. I appreciate you liking it. We had morphs with Hexagon. We had morphs with ZBrush. Oh yeah, Judith, creating ZBrush morphs from a base figure. I think I know you. I think you know this already. Just to reiterate on that, I'm sure you know this already. But if you want to make a morph on the base figure and you don't want to have any other morphs that will influence that figure, if you do something, I totally forgot about this in the beginning. If you want to start basically from a clean slate, just load yourself the base Genesis figure. So that's under figures here. And then in the Genesis 8 starter essentials, you can either start with either of the dev figures here. Those are the gray ones. They don't have materials. Or you start with these guys here, basic female or basic male, 8.1 or 8.0. If you start from those and create your own morphs on those figures, you make sure that you don't use anyone else's morphs to begin with. So, you know, that I just wanted to mention that. It's on my list. Totally forgot about this. Righty, so that's basically all I had for questions. What I have not touched on is the thumbnail. So we have a bit of time. We've got about just over half an hour worth of time, and I'm thinking of making a thumbnail for this program. So currently it just has that still from my animation, just where it says 3D Shenanigans. It's kind of in the grass and everything. I had a couple of ideas that I wanted to turn into reality. And one of them I've kind of started with on a basic figure. I wanted to show you that concept. So one is essentially a face of a figure kind of from here, maybe with the eyes, maybe without the eyes, just having the 3D Shenanigans logo on her hand and just looking at it and going, ooh, something like that. So the difficulty about that is, of course, getting the posing right. So I was just playing with this earlier, and it's kind of a good starting point. So my main worry was that the arm might not be posable enough, but I've been able to do it, and it doesn't look great on the figure, but we're not gonna see that. So let's frame up the whole thing, since it is supposed to be a thumbnail for YouTube. It'll be something like this. And size of the logo is debatable. We can make that a bit bigger. We can also move the hand position further to her face. That might be even better. There also needs to be a little bit of room on it to write the episode number. Might be something like this. And then give her an expression. Something along those lines. I'm thinking that might be just what the doctor ordered. And then another idea that I had, that was actually something that Julia had, an idea that she had, use this logo and have it basically come out of a screen, like out of a cinema type screen. And I think if we do that in Marvelous Designer, that might be kind of nice. Do you like it, Sydney? I like it. I like that you like it. Slight twist on the palm to relax the fingers. Yes, let's do that. I think that's a good idea, but in principle, there's either this or there's no people involved, and we just have, imagine the logo lying flat in Marvelous Designer, drape a cloth over it, make sure it doesn't drape too far to the back, so maybe have a helper object that helps it bounce up, and then turn the cloth into something that has the impression of the logo, and then in DAZ Studio, turn it all upright so that the cloth is kind of spanning over the logo, make the logo illuminated, emitted, and then have something like a very low opacity on the sheet so that you see the logo shining through there. So, you know, both options possible. Let's start with this one first because we're almost there. Let me go lock this in as a camera. And the Marvelous Designer thing, I know me, it's going to take just much longer. So that's our camera. We've locked that in. Let's twist the hand a bit more. So I totally agree with you. That might... I'm not sure if we can do it with the hand. I've already removed the parameters, have I? I thought I had. No, I haven't. I haven't. So the twist of the hand, right, okay, yes, the hand needs to be further over here, and I can't do it because we have a limit there. So let's go and remove the limits. I'll disable limits altogether for now. Much like the X motion, that's that twist, and this is the side, and this is the bend motion. Yeah, I'd like the hand to bend even further back. My original idea actually was to use two different objects for that are not connected. That would be even easier to use. So rather than having this be her hand, she could be someone else, and the hand is a separate object, and then you can just move it any which way. I see, even with so much twisting, it's not quite twisted enough, is it? Oop. I like it. Did you say fingers spread out a little bit more because it's such a large logo? Because that's the easiest way to do that is with the power pose tool. And this is her right hand, which is this, right? I think the right hand that's this, I think. That does that. So if you do, how do you spread the fingers again? Isn't that something? It's kind of a magic. Oh, I've had them spread already as much as I could. How about it? How about that? I like it. And now the logo needs to be maybe resting on her palm a little bit more. I don't want it to dig in. Doable. Darrell, can you do this? I have long tendons in my fingers, and for playing piano that's quite nice. But sometimes it happens by accident that when I go, I can twist the tips of my fingers. Can you do that? This is kind of nice. This is something not many people can do. That I can do it with all fingers. Sometimes it happens by accident. Little finger that doesn't work, but yeah, I can do this. Don't know if my DAZ characters can do that, but it's not painful. It just means I have slightly longer tendons. And usually, you know, people shouldn't be able to do this. So I don't know if it's a special talent. I just thought I'd let you know. You can do that too. My God, we have so many similarities. This is so cool. We're in that, what shall we call it? We're in that finger crimping club. How exciting. Oh, the mouse comes to visit. How exciting. That is crazy, huh? So, Sydney, you're thinking so rather than having the fingers quite so straight, would you say bend them out like this or bend them in like this, like have it cupped a little bit? Let me know your preference because I'm happy to make that happen. I'm going to go and add the colors to the logo. I think they are material zones, but they're not set up. I really need to get this logo sorted. I use it so often. I always start from scratch. It's so crazy. It's called Logo Flyout, I think, because it was just it just made it. It was just a font that I typed out. This is actually these are not iRay materials either. These are 3D Light materials. Let's go convert them. Yes, I like it. Yes. It's a base color instead of, so this is blue and it's kind of a baby blue. It's like that, but less saturated. Again, look, that's the whole logo. We didn't want to do that. It's also not quite as bright, so make that happen. That's the blue. Then we have the green. The green is kind of a mintish green, a bit like this, but again, a little lighter and a little darker, kind of a bluish green, I guess. Shenanigans. And then we have pink. That's kind of this pink, maybe a little lighter. 3D Shenanigans. Is it too bright? We'll see about that in iRay. I'm not too fussed. I don't have Pantone values on these. on these. I think this was just less saturated and a bit kind of minty. Yeah, more like a pastel type affair. Slightly cupping. Okay, cool. Let's do it. Let's do it. Geometry isn't great, but you know, yeah, slightly cupping. Okay, so that's not completely flat. Power pose, the magic tool. Like slightly like that. And then we'll just go and bend the hand slightly further down, I think. Or we just make the logo, bend the logo a bit. I think just help the hand a bit. That hand joint, I always forget which one it is. Was it twist? No, it wasn't twist. It was it bend? Yeah, there we go. There we go. That's nice. Yes, Sydney, I do like that much better. It'll also help with the placement of the logo that we can now go and put a little bit deeper without it digging into her hand. He says as it digs into her hand. Do you know, I could apply a subdivision surface modifier to the figure and have the logo be the collider so that it literally sits heavy on her fingertips and impresses on her fingertips a little bit. Something we've learned not so long ago. Let's make that happen. See if that works. Whole Genesis figure selected. Edit, object, geometry. Where was it? Add smoothing modifier. There we go. In mesh smoothing, collision item, 3D flyout logo. And lo and behold, fingers bend a little bit with the logo. Amazing. Move the logo, move the indentation. There. Have a look at values. Mesh smoothing, maybe make this 20. Super subtle, but just helps sell that bit of realism. I moved it off the little finger just a little bit. Yeah, it needs to either sit on it or it needs to just be have the little finger in front of it. I don't mind that. What's the camera see? I love it when a plan comes together. Saving, that is a really good idea. Let's do that. Let's do that. Oops. Let's save it now. Thank you, Brian. 3DS thumbnail. So 3DS thumbnail version, let's call it version 2. Thumbnail, there we go. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, the indentation trick is it's this neat, isn't it? Yeah, so we're thinking cupping the logo a little bit. So maybe we'll go and move it back a bit. Is that too far back? The good thing is those details we can just think about. We can just think about later. Let's see if we can get the lighting right and use an expression on our figure as well. Let's do that. Let's do lighting first. Lighting, very simple. I don't know if the logo is going to be illuminated. I don't think it will. I think I'm just going to have it as it is. I just have one strong rim light on the logo here. Spotlight. Use active viewport transforms. And I'll call this rim light. Rim light already exists, really? That's interesting. Where is it? In which case I don't need it. Why do I have a rim light already? I have a rim light and a key light. Oh, that's handy. Where is it? It's there. Oh, okay. That was from a previous scene I must have started with. Oh, that's perfect. We'll just reutilize that. Great, that has most of the settings that I need on there already. So just have a constraint to point at the logo. And then just go where I wanted to put it in the first place, which was kind of here. Maybe from slightly higher up, perhaps. We'll see what looks good. That's our rim light. What are the settings on this? It has a disc light geometry. It has a height and width of 50, and it has a luminous flux of 50,000. So I like that. That's kind of good. Okay, interesting. So you're thinking the palm further away from her face. It'll be difficult with the thumbnail. Let's play with that idea. I appreciate the suggestions because it's one of those things, if you're not set on the exact look and feel of something, these are great things to try out. So yeah, keep them coming, guys. Very good. Let's go and point the front light also at the logo. Also might be an idea to see where our camera is in relation to all that. But that's where the camera is. Good. So I'm thinking that could then go slightly come from the side. Might just shine into her face a little bit, but we're okay with that. Its light properties are 75,000 and also disk 50/50. That's cool. So it kind of depends how the filament draw options node sees these lights. These might well be too extreme. Let's see what this looks like. I'll go and save this and let's have a quick nosy at an iRay preview here. Ha! The Amaga is here. Hello, hello. How are you? Good evening to Belgium. I'm currently building a thumbnail for this very program for 3D Shenanigans. Something that is, you know, a little bit more succinct, distinguishable, custom made rather than the off-the-cuff stuff I just found in some folder happened to say 3D Shenanigans. Technically not bad, just a tad hot in places. Let's start with the key light. I think the key light needs a bit of dimming down here, perhaps to that. Still too hot. Wow. Could be because it's so close to the objects. That is very possible. Oh, do you know what? The other thing I forgot to do is I think I have the HDRI on again. That doesn't help, does it? Environment options. Switch that off for now. Yeah, there we go. That makes a big difference already. So that is too low on the key light. I thought it was. 50,000 was a bit too high, so with the it's probably somewhere in the middle there. 50% of that. Could live with that. Rim light, way too strong. Liking the idea though. I think I might have the rim light come slightly further from the top and trying to get a catch on these portions of the letters here. Just on the top. I like the back, but I like it on the, I'd like to see it on the top as well. I think maybe do that half the strength. It's still very strong. Half of that maybe. It's still extremely strong, so it could well be the placement and that the fact that it's too close to it. Let's have a look at two viewports. The top one will be the rendered preview and the bottom one is the one we're fiddling with. So yes, it just comes from whoops, sorry about that. It just comes directly from behind, so we need to have it coming a bit from the top. Look at that, it even has subsurface scattering on my logo. That is nice. I like that. I like that. I didn't know it was going to be that good with the subsurface scattering. I'm just using the regular iRay shader. That is probably why that happens. That's even better than a catchlight. So catchlight, I'm still not seeing it. But I think we're getting there. I think this is nice. I do like the look that I'm getting. I'll see what happens from here. Yeah, I do like the subsurface scattering even better than the catchlight. Ha! This is nice. That's cool. If we now make the light from the front a bit stronger. Perhaps not quite that strong. And then as we add a tiny bit of the environment light in, just to get rid of the harshness of the shadows, maybe 0.2. And the background will be something dark, so we don't see that here at the moment either. But yeah, I'm thinking it's kind of getting there, isn't it? That with a real figure. I think maybe the bottom row of the logo is a bit too light, so I don't know, is that the key light or is that the rim light? Yeah, that's actually the key light, isn't it? So key light even less than what we have. Or also turn it into something larger. That is also an idea. Make it even softer from the front. I'm still thinking the logo might benefit from just a small smidge of emission itself, in which case we can maybe do away with the key light altogether. Let me try that. So key light is off. Logo's good. I like the dramaticness of it. Maybe just no key light. Let me try this with the emission shader on the surfaces tab. I'll just go and use green as an example. So green emission, what happens if I just make that white? I can make it green itself, but this is kind of the difference. So it's just a little bit glowing as opposed to that. Do we even see that? Am I making that up? Off and on. Do we see anything? I don't think we do. I don't think we do. So okay, what's this too much then? It just takes away the drama that it had before. Yeah, I don't like it. It's good to try it out, but I don't think I like it in this case. I think with the subsurface scattering in there, I think that's already enough drama. I'm thinking exactly. It already has a nice glow, and that's just because of the translucency. I do like that. Let's leave that. Imagine a kind of a black background. Let's leave it. That's cool. That's cool. Let's see if we can build a character around it and give her an expression, and then that'll be that. I think that'll be that. That's our thumbnail. I'm excited. Yeah, Sydney, I'm with you. I would love for the hand to be. I like the placement of the logo. I like the placement of the face. I just like the hand to be slightly further towards the body, even further. You know, that I would like that. Let's see if we can make it happen. Let's see if we can make that happen. I'll go back to the single viewport for that. Yes, absolutely. This is going to be the V2. Let's do it. Thank you, Neville. Thank you for suggesting that. I will go and make another one right away, and I'll call it V3. So just in case I hastily press the Control-S combination, it'll just be, you know, it'll just be there. Switch away from this, very important. Let's see if we can make that happen. Now the filament draw options node translates the light a little bit too strong. So I'll go and tell it not to do that. So under scene lights, let's try 1. It's probably more like 0.5. Yeah, there we go. That's better. Currently filament, I don't really know how many spotlights it translates at the same time. I think it does one for sure, but as soon as you put 2 or 3 to it, I think filament doesn't quite do that at the moment. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So it certainly does the environment light and 1 parametric light source, but it sometimes doesn't do the 2nd or 3rd one. So it's one of those things. Well, how do we push this arm even further back without making it a duplicate of the figure? I mean, that's probably the easiest way, because the moment I now go and mess with the posing of this, I have a feeling it'll go and screw up the placement of the hand. So I think what I might do is just go and make a duplicate of my whole figure and hide the hand on the original figure and just move the real hand back. Let me do that. So edit duplicate. It might actually be more beneficial if we add skin textures now before we do that, just so that they have the same skin textures. And for that, let me go and put some clothing on my figure first as well. Why not just use the classic bikini? Perfect. Ooh, that's the smoothing modifier and a half here. Look at that. Woo! Crazy. But we don't worry about it. It's good. We're okay. Give you matching bikini bottoms. Okay, so now we can give my girl some skin detail. Anything will do, really. Monique, maybe. Good stuff. Monique or maps in MDL. Goodie. So I'm doing that so that now when I go and duplicate my main figure, edit duplicate node hierarchies, that'll duplicate everything. That'll create us 2 figures. So this is going to be my hand figure, and on her we need to literally go and hide everything except for the hand. So I'll go and hide my first figure, and her it's probably easier if I go and hide everything and then just bring back the hand. Let me do that, the arm and anything in addition to that. So that's the arm. Go and hand figure completely remove, and now here I can go and select, oh come on, select, oh come on, select children and control make that available again. Dang, where's the arm? Logic dictates the arm is now visible, but I don't really see it. Why not? Do I have to show that figure? Oh, there we go, right. Arm. Arm and nothing but the arm. So now I can move the arm. That's great. I've got the hand figure and I've just got the hand figure. The only thing that's awkward at the moment is that I don't have the manipulator by the hand. So I'll go and select my hand figure and use my joint editor tool. Bring my little, go look from the left perhaps, from the front even. And move the green guy up. Just so that it's by the figure. Red guy isn't all that important. I'll just move them closer there. Front and from the right. Move that sucker into position. Aha. Red, I'll just leave it aligned with that-ish. So the idea of that is now that I can go switch back to my universal tool. And just go move my hand where it needs to be. That is very nice. I like it. Now we have to do the reverse with my other figure so that it appears without the arm. Ouch. Crazy good, huh? I love doing this together with you guys because it's this out of the box approach, workflow thinking that sometimes is so important to get right. And also to literally collaborate thinking this through. Okay, so let's go bring back my other figure. So this, I'm going to call this one my main figure. And control click to bring everything back. And now she has two hands. Also notice how Filament no longer wants to render my light. I don't really know why that is. It just doesn't want to do that. Have I disabled it, enabled it? No, it just stopped showing it. I'm not sure why. Maybe it ran out of memory. It's a fascinating one. I didn't really change anything, but Filament just decided, no, we're not going to render your parametric light anymore. So I guess that's another little bug. Just so that I can see stuff, I'll go and crank up the way it interpolates the environment scale up, just so that I get good placement going here. There. Goodie. All right. Second figure. Tell me about your arm. This is it. Control click just on the arm. That'll just remove the whole thing. And that's that. So now if we look through the camera, we can literally control these two things independently. I love it. Arm no longer connected to figure. So now, since I've moved the arm a little bit, let's talk about the position of the logo on the, let's go back to the two viewports, just so that we can see the camera in the top one with the aspect frame, and then we do the fiddling and fine adjustment in the bottom one, and then we'll do an expression on the face, and then we'll do render. See how that goes. So the logo is now could the logo even be closer to her face? Almost could do, couldn't it? And then if we make the fingertips just slightly less cupping it, I'm going to do this individually per finger. So I like the index finger and the little finger, and I'm just going to go and take the two middle and ring finger just to make them slightly point down so that there's not that much intersection in there. Let's do that with power pose again. And that needs to happen on the hand figure now, of course. Hand figure's hands. And that is the, what did we say? Which one was it again? Left, right? I can't tell. Was it the right one? Yes, it is. Perfect. Got the right hand, everyone. Oh, come on. So that, and then this. I'm okay with them digging in a little bit, because we've got our magic smoothing modifier to take care of business. There. Yo, wow, nice. Good. You can, yes, that is the easiest way to avoid poke through. If you have a pelvis or breasts that poke through, just switch off the pectorals altogether and you don't have to paint out vertices with the geometry editor. It's a very, very good tip. Yeah, sometimes it's a bit inaccurate, but if it's if you find an option for the parts of the figure that need to be just removed completely, yes, absolutely. That is the easiest way to do it. And remember, in the scene tab, when you click on something, it'll hide that node. If you control click, it hides everything underneath that node. So if you do this with a figure as well as clothing will all be hidden. Control click on the main figure. But if you do this on the shoulder, control click the eyeball icon on the shoulder, then shoulder, arm, forearm, hand, and all fingers will be hidden. So it's like hide with children, essentially. Very cool. Expression next. I think I'm good with this. Control S, Control S, Control S, Control S. Must save stuff. And we'll put a character morph on it in a minute as well. I just like the Monique skin tone. That's nice. I think in the head of the main figure now, very important. Let's see if we find some expressions. I should have really used a Genesis 3 figure. I have so many really good expressions for Genesis 3, and everything I have for 8 is kind of, you know, it's a shame. It's a shame, really. I should really either upgrade or it's just, you know, or just swap out the figure for Genesis 3 figure. It's not actually that difficult. We have our hand in place. Why don't we do that? Forget the main figure. The main figure can be Genesis 3. No one's going to notice. So if we don't find the expression, I might just do that. So, mouth. Oh, let's see. Ooh, almost. That looks more like a... That's not good. Mouth. Ah, interesting. Like, ooh, ah. And now all we need is a bit of the surprise thing. Is it also good? Also good. Afraidness instead. The one thing I want to avoid is this. Is the what's it valley? How about happy? Isn't there something happy? Happy, come on, excited, be excited, come on. Yeah, man, woohoo! And then we have maybe a little bit of too much of mouth action going, and shocked and surprised. Yes, let's see if we can work with the mouth action a bit. We're kind of getting there. I'm inclined to put these on a puppeteer slider and just play around with it. See how that works. I'm thinking. Has she? Oh, good. Valerie 3D, aka Gordon. Back in the day, Gordon. Now she's Valerie 3D. Thank you for the tip. If you do have anything that you think might be useful, do send me a link. I'm more than happy to take a look at it. Goody, no, that's a really good tip, because for Genesis 3 I have so many really good ones. My absolute favorite ones is from a vendor called Those Things, and even though it relies on another product, whoops, that's not it, sorry. Even though it relies on a different product, I bought that product just because I love the expression so much. New search functionality. By the way, implemented by Travis MP, very good to know. The hide items I own is now disabled by default. I really like that. Those things here. Biometric expressions of happiness and joy. Currently 50% off, very good. These are hundreds of sliders that are just absolutely brilliant expressions. They're for Genesis 3 and they rely on another product that gives the Genesis 3 figure more points to move the face. And I really like that. So if you look at these thumbnails, seriously cool. And he has two in that series. One is happiness and joy, and the other one is like, you know, being afraid and all that. And you can control either the whole face or the top as well as the bottom independently. So if you like the look of the eyes on one, you can do that and combine it with the mouth shape of another. I would love to see a product like that for Genesis 8. And these look absolutely, they just look so much more natural than any expression that I have for Genesis 8 right now. So it basically is for that reason that I'm this close to just replacing the figure and just using a Genesis 3 figure in that spot. So much stuff you can do with that. Very, very nice. These look like human expressions, and I've not seen that level of detail on Genesis 8 expressions yet, but that's also because I might not know the correct product. So if you know something along this caliber for Genesis 8, I would love to see it. I would love to see it. Those things, very cool vendor. The other one he has is hide items I've shown is now enabled by again, and screams of terror. So if you're more like into that sort of thing, it's also 50% off. Very nice. So yes, it requires these things, a 200 plus head and face morphs for Genesis 3 and the regular Genesis 3 face morphs as well. But if you have all those morphs, I don't know how much time he spent on dialing those things in, because it's just crazy amount. You can literally see the fear in her eyes. I really like that. Not suitable for the thumbnail we're making, but you know that it exists. Genesis 3 is not a bad figure at all. I might be able to bring those over, even if it's like by a per expression basis, over to Genesis 8. I'd love to do that. But you know, realism. Very cool. Yes, those things. Absolutely cool. And it is a bit of an investment, not just this product, but you have to have the 200 plus head and face morphs for that. But it's kind of worth it. By Dogs. Also 50% off. Look at that. Awesome stuff. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, so let me put the biometric expressions here into the chat. Do you know what? I'm going to append my affiliate link. If you do pick it up, remember that when you go shopping via my affiliate link, wpguru.tv/DAZ, you will get, at no extra cost to you, you will get, you will support the channel, which is really, really awesome. And, you know, I appreciate it. Biometric expressions. Boom. There we go. Yes, you can do it with anything that you check out for. I get a little cut of every purchase. Doesn't matter if it's a product I recommend or something that you found. As long as you type in my link beforehand, I'll get a little cut, and that'll be super awesome. So what are we going to do? Are we going to use these biometric expressions that I keep raving about because I don't find anything for Genesis 8? Yes, we will. Let's go and delete my main figure. Shall I delete her? Yes, let's go and delete the whole thing. The hand is still there. It's kind of creepy, but it's, you know, it's all right. Let's go and bring in a Genesis 3 figure, and then I can use those expressions on there. Let's do that. Let's do that. Genesis 3. We actually have a different one, which is the dev rig, so I'll go and use that. Genesis 3 female dev load. Let's do it. Biometric expressions. Let me go and pin that so that you can find it. I'm looking forward to that caliber of expressions on Genesis 8. So if there's a way that I can convert them, I will certainly let you know. All she did really was stand in position like that. And all we also need to do is make sure we select her arm, right shoulder bend, and just go and hide that. Actually, the whole shoulder bend probably needs to... No, actually, I'm going to go and leave that there and just use the natural pose from 3D Universe's pose architect to just put the arms down. I think that might just blend in nicely. Let's give you some clothing as well. Sadly, the same bikini isn't... Is it going to work? It might work. It might work. Same bikini. I mean, we do have other things for Genesis 3, I suppose. But why not try that? Or can it retrofit? It doesn't work that way, does it? It doesn't really retrofit all that well. It doesn't really matter. It's just to cover up nudity, really. That's all. Come on. And the top. Yeah, I can't take the whole shoulder away because otherwise we'd see a hole in the figure. And I think I have a Monique material for Genesis 3 as well. I have it. Do I have it installed? I don't know. Do I not have it maybe? Maybe I don't have it. Also possible that I don't have it. Monique, there she is. Monique. All maps there. 2 different Moniques. Hey. Perfect. And while we're here, we might as well also give her a morph. Mainly about the face morph. Oh yeah, we're not quite done with the pose, are we? So that's in, I think that is under natural pose. Just dial that down and boom. No one would know. Everything's awesome. She's got a 3rd arm. It's a bit scary. She's got 2 skin materials. No one's gonna know, except for, you know, us. So expression then. Should really apply the character morph first before we do the expression, because there'll be consequences otherwise. So actor, full body, real world, or people rather. People. This is, you know, difficult. What are we going to use? Oh, these are just the body morphs, aren't they? People here. Actually, we can just use the head morph. So instead of full body, it is probably okay to just go to people, real world, and just come up with something we like. Perfect. Done. Expressions. Expressions, right? So biometric expressions, this is what they look like. They're all color coded into the full expression. So like bright smile. We'll do all of these things. It's maybe too much, so it doesn't have to. We don't have to overdo it. And then there's bright smile, top and bottom. So I can make it so that just the top of her face changes, or just the bottom. So if I'm not quite happy about that kind of expression, I can go and use a little bit of the bright smile top, because I do like that, and then just find something else for the bottom. That is quite nice. The red ones are the angry ones. We don't want her to be angry. Or battle cry. Do you know what? I might switch everything into low resolution just so that the expressions dial up a little bit quicker. Now I think when I dial this, it's just a little bit more responsive because there's less vertices are being shifted around. Contempt and peace. Come on. Very peaceful. Delighted smile. Elation and smile. I like the idea that you can just pick top and bottom. Joyful natural smile. I'm just looking for a broad shape. They're all a bit exaggerated, but that is easy to do less with. Laughter. That could be good. So if we use laughter on the bottom and then the natural smile, there's ooh, ooh, there we go. That's exactly what I was looking for. Like ooh. And now just to open up the mouth, I'll just go and use a Veseem to make that, literally to make that into the ooh or ah or ow. That'll work. Something along those lines. Or ow. So let's say ooh at the bottom like this, and then have that bright smile at the top. That's good expression. I like it. Some shenanigans in the expression. Yes, smize. I like it. And definitely don't look behind the curtain. But yes, this is what I like her to look. And I think what's really selling me on this is that it's the regular expressions, they often overlook the fact that a smile isn't just this. That's just creepy. That's nothing else. There's so many muscles we pull in our face. It's like smiling with my eyes isn't really doing that. You know, it's like panos panai. I am so excited and super pumped to introduce to you Windows 11. Well, your body language doesn't sell it, dude. This is your body language saying, oh my god, I hate being here after creating the Microsoft Surface. I really don't know what my place at Microsoft is anymore. That's what I'm hearing, you know. This is not... And so body language is important. I'm thinking, you know, did you see it? I've installed Windows 11. It currently works on my computer. Not on this one, on another one. And I can confirm that both Blender and DAZ Studio work with Windows 11, at least with the current insider preview. So that is good to know. Haha. Yeah, so expressions, they're just so important to get right, and if you don't get them right, yeah, that ain't so good. There's something else now that I see this in the larger thing. We'll look at this in Ira in a moment. I think her eyes aren't quite looking at the sign. I'm thinking her head probably needs to be tilted to the camera a little bit, and the eyes need to just look at the sign. I think that's also important, and I'll do all that with Power Pose. If I have I installed the Genesis 3 Power Pose templates? I have not. Dang, brother, that's cold. Or did they just look much less like I remember the Genesis 8 ones? So like, you know, look like this and then go look like that, because it's the magic thing. Very important. My girl doesn't have hair either. Let's make that happen. Subtle eyeline indeed. Chloe with 11. I will try. Let me do that, and I will tell you on the YouTube community tab or next time we see. Let's have a look if what it looks like from here. Yeah, okay, so thank you, Durrell. Oops. Eyeline. There we go. Important, these things, and you don't do it, and all of a sudden you might not be able to tell what's wrong with the picture, but you may be able to tell something is wrong with the picture. So finger placements we're okay with. All she needs is a bit of hair now. Do you know, Biscuits, I haven't tried this, but let me see if there's a Genesis 3 fit on your Aggie hair. If there is, we'll totally use it. Let's see. Hair. Don't filter because you might get filtered out aggy hair. Let's try it. Let's try it. I haven't looked. You probably know better than me. And I'm not sure if I needed auto fit on this. And it's just hair, let's say short hair. See if it works. Does it work? Kind of works. That's with auto fit. I'm thinking in the shaping, I'm gonna see if I can see what style I like, and then I brush the hair from the left side of her face just back a little bit. Will I go by presets? Why not? Thumbnails make it easier. How about this? Is this cool? We could do that, and then we just move this hair out of the way a little bit. We don't see much of it, but it'll be, you know, it'll be nice. I'm thinking. Oh, there's this iron. I like the iron idea, but maybe just the. Maybe just that. I do like that. Pick a color, of course, as well. Very important. Maybe something dark. So many subtle differences. I'm thinking maybe that. We'll see what it looks in Iray. Yeah, Clo, Sydney, I don't actually have Clo right now, but I could get the trial version, or I'll try Marvelous Designer. I would imagine if one works, the other will probably also work. This is probably under moves, and we're looking at the left side. Move left. Move left height. Move left. Oh, that moves both. Move left back. We'll see. If this is not enough, we can always try and see. Whoops. We can always try to see what happens if we don't use limits, or use limits and then set it to 200. Just see if that might be too. There we go. We can get away with it. That's cool. Camera. And see, maybe it's actually too much. I'm maybe happy with a bit of hair here. We'll see. Let's save it and have a look at this in Iray. And notice there should be a little bit of room, so I might change the framing a little bit. I'd like for there to be enough room to indicate that my logo needs to go in, and then also the episode number needs to go in. So I might change the framing a little bit. But for now, see what this looks like in the Iray preview. Thank you for being here, everybody. I really appreciate that. Oh, she's not high res yet either. I've just realized she's not quite high res. This is all a bit on the chunky side. And we don't see the key light. That might be okay. So imagine a dark background on this. I think I can make that happen. I always forget how to do this in DAZ Studio. Does anyone know how to change the background color? So currently it's just that preview that we see. I believe there's the background tab we can set. I rarely use it. Environment. Backdrop, we could just go make that black. I think that's how it works. Not quite black, just make it like dark gray. It is how I found it out, thanks. So less chunkiness, but I'm still thinking we don't have the key light on at all at the moment. Let me switch that on. I think a little bit of key light. Yeah, see, this is exactly what we needed. A little bit of that. And we're good. Let me go switch it to high res. .3D Shenanigans. Man, I love it. This isn't bad. I mean, we did spend quite a bit of time on it, but sometimes that's just what you have to do. I like the translucency. I like the slight shadows that we see in the logo. The only thing that I don't like is that this doesn't separate itself very well, so I can barely tell that it's a font. Do you know what I mean? So it's a bit light here. So although I do like the key lights effects on these things, I might just play with the color of the logo. If I just make the color a little bit darker, it might just be better for the logo. I think I'm okay with most of the rest of the stuff, but just the colors in total, just make them a little bit darker. Let's do it while we preview. And I'm really glad that I could take you all on this creation process with me. I was going to do this on a Twitch stream, but then I thought, hey, this is actually for this very program, so why don't we just do it all together? Doesn't matter if it looks a bit dirty. See, this is, I think, what it needed. Otherwise, it would not really stand out. The green has the same tendency. Make it a little bit darker, you know. Was that maybe a little bit too much? Go back to the... No, I think this is it. 3D Shenanigans. I think the blue. Let's do the blue as well. Just a smidge. Just to increase readability. You see, this is it. This is it. I like the 3D here. Maybe what happens if we make that darker as well? I think we're okay. I like the translucency it has. I like that a bit brighter. Okay, green. Final tweak on the green. Just a little bit darker. Just a little bit. Does anyone even notice? We don't mind. There, I think we've done it now. Are we good here? I am a bloody perfectionist, that's exactly right. Mick, good afternoon, good to see you. We've just made this a thumbnail for this very program. And so I'm thinking we need a little bit of space in it so that we can have the episode number in there. I'm not entirely sure currently where that might fit in. It might not be that important, but let me just make a new camera and use this as a template here, just so that I don't screw up the first one, as you know, as we all do from time to time. So with this, just with the framing, I'll switch back to filament. If we were to go and do this, like that, you see, I think I see too much of the figure. I'm not entirely sure if I like it. Maybe just use this and then just have a row at the bottom here, or just a number at the bottom center. My logo can go here or here, something like that. That'll be good. I'm okay with that. I'll play around with it in Photoshop a little bit. Let me go and save it and make sure it doesn't get lost. Looks good to you, Neville? I like it. That is good. So the episode number is probably going to be here, just a number imposed in Photoshop, and then my logo is going to be here, maybe here or maybe here. I'm thinking. I'm still not... What do you think? Suggestions? Would it fit in here? The other way around. Let's use the original. Let's use that. Let's use the original and have... Just put the thirds guide on here. We can barely see it. We can barely see it. But if I go switch this back to iRay, I'm thinking, here's a plan, here's a plan. So how about WP Guru logo at the bottom center, like literally here. And then the episode number just here. Or in this space, or something somewhere here. How's that? Logo could be here. And then just, you know, 4.01, 4.02, something like that. That'll work. That'll work. If I needed it slightly larger, I can do that in Photoshop. So that gives me that bit of space there. I think we're good. There's one final thing I want to try. I want to see what it looks like with, and I'm loving the skin detail here, even though it's not a Genesis 8.1 character. I'm still loving the skin detail. I'm going to have a look what my logo looks like with a subdivision surface modifier. I don't think it'll look great, but just to check. Just has slightly rounder edges. The geometry isn't great. Make it slightly higher. Give my setup a little bit more to do. Dinner time, all right. I'm going to wrap it up as well here. I think I might, I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to leave it or not on the higher subdivision here with my logo. I might. It just gives that nice slightly rounded edge. I'm going to render this out and add it to YouTube. My friends, it was such a wonderful time hanging out with you. Thank you so much, Durrell and Biscuits, for your wonderful super chat donations. Thanks to all my Patreons and Ko-fi supporters, and of course those of you who support me here on YouTube with the join button. It was an absolute thrill and a pleasure to be here. I'll be back tomorrow for a good round of Subnautica at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and during the week sometime on Twitch. I'd like to check out something called Animates. If you want to join me for that, that'll be probably on Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you haven't heard of Animates, it's a program that gamers use that just tracks your face with a regular face cam and turns you into an animated 3D character. I cannot wait to try that out. So that'll be on Monday at 4 p.m. on Twitch. Have a wonderful weekend. Join me tomorrow if you're free. Other than that, have a fantastic time, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.